What if I told you that the moment you disappear from her life, not with anger, not with drama, but with quiet strength, she begins to feel something she never expected, not respect, not understanding, but need, because you became the one thing she never thought you could be, unreachable. And in a world where men throw themselves at women for attention, validation, and scraps of affection, you became the one who walked away. And that changes everything. If you've ever felt taken for granted, if you've ever felt like you gave everything and still got treated like you didn't matter, then this video is for you. Comment below, "I choose strength." Because that's what this is about. Choosing strength over attention, purpose over pleasing, and power over chasing. Most men don't know the cost of always being available until it's too late. Until the woman they wanted doesn't look at them the same. Until the texts go dry. Until the energy shifts. And it hits like a truck. Why? Because you were taught to give more. To be the nice guy. To check in. To never let her feel distance. But what if I told you that doing less is what makes her feel more? We live in a time where men are starving for guidance. They scroll endlessly, looking for answers, stuck between confusion and pain. They want to understand why the woman they gave their heart to just drifted away. Here's the truth. She didn't lose interest because you were bad. She lost interest because you were too easy to understand, too easy to read, too present. This isn't just a dating tip. It's a life code, rooted in the core of Stoicism. It's about mastering your emotions, detaching from outcome, and living a life that pulls people toward you by force of character, not desperation. This video will break it down, day by day. What happens in her mind when a man truly disappears? Not just from her phone, but from her emotional radar. By the end of this, you'll walk away with timeless truths. You'll learn how to command space, how to create mystery, how to take back your power, and most importantly, how to rebuild yourself. Day 1 to 2. She's unfazed. The most dangerous illusion a man can live in is believing that his presence will always be appreciated just because he gives. You wake up one morning and something in you shifts. You don't text her. You don't check if she liked your latest post. You don't reach out. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, you don't put her above your own peace. And while you're beginning to breathe, trying to remember what your life felt like before you put her at the center of your emotional gravity, she's sipping coffee, casually scrolling her phone, barely noticing. That's the moment that burns the most. Not anger, not heartbreak, just absence of reaction. And it crushes you at first, because every part of you hoped she'd sense the shift. That maybe, just maybe, she'd feel that something valuable had been removed. But she doesn't. Not yet. Because for women, attention is like background noise. It's always there. Men flood their inboxes, validate their selfies, double-tap their stories. They swim in a sea of male desire so constantly they don't even register when one man stops swimming. But here's what most men never grasp. Her silence doesn't mean you don't matter. It means she's so used to abundance that she hasn't even realized scarcity is coming. She thinks she has time. She assumes you're just another man playing emotional hide and seek. She's not in pain yet. She's not wondering yet. In these first 2 days, she doesn't feel the loss because she's still blind to the fact that this time it's not a tactic. It's not manipulation. It's not a game. It's you finally choosing yourself. She doesn't see the decision you made last night while staring at the ceiling, thinking of every time you sent a message just to keep her interested, every time you suppressed your truth to keep the peace. She doesn't feel the weight of what it cost you to always be available, always be agreeable, always be there. But you do. You feel it with every breath, Every hour that passes where you don't reach out is a small war you win against the part of you that was trained to beg for breadcrumbs. And though she may appear unshaken, the ripples have started, not in her world yet, but in yours. You're shifting from the man who needed her to the man who remembered he never did. You're planting the first seeds of sovereignty, and while she continues her day, oblivious to the internal revolution happening within you, your energy begins to recalibrate, slowly, quietly, powerfully, not for revenge, not to make her chase, but because you're finally coming home to yourself. She doesn't know it yet, but something irreversible just began, and soon the space you've created will scream louder than your presence ever did. Day 3 to 5. She starts to check. It always begins the same. She's not sure what triggered the thought. It could have been a song, a smell, a sudden lull in her feed. But something tugs at her, just for a second. Where is he? She shrugs it off. She's seen this before. Men go quiet, play hard to get, fold within days. They always come back, but this time, something's off. Because you're not just quiet. You've vanished without begging, without announcement, without needing to remind her you still exist. And that's when it begins. A strange, unfamiliar tightness beneath her chest. Subtle, but it's there. She checks her phone more than usual, scrolls past your name, pretends she's not curious, but her body betrays her. Because this isn't silence anymore. It's a void, a space where your attention used to be, and nature hates a void, especially one that used to feed her ego. She opens her camera roll, not because she misses you, but because your absence is now uncomfortable. She stares at old chats, not the sweet ones, the ones where you used to ask if she was okay, the ones where you checked in after she posted a sad quote, the ones where you gave even when she gave nothing back. She remembers the energy you used to bring, the validation she didn't have to ask for. It's gone now, and with it, her certainty. The certainty that she always had you wrapped, that no matter what mood she was in, you'd still be orbiting. Now, you're a black hole, not angry, not needy, just gone. She starts testing reality, posts a story that's halfway flirty, halfway random, maybe a gym mirror pic, maybe a quote about focusing on yourself, but it's bait. And when she doesn't see your name in the viewers list, something shifts. It's not just absence, it's unpredictability, and unpredictability triggers anxiety. You've gone off script. She expected you to react. She counted on it. It's how she filters the men from the boys, the ones who disappear but peak versus the ones who truly walk away. And now, she's forced to question something she never wanted to confront. Did she overestimate her hold on you? That's when the thoughts become louder, not out of love, out of ego, out of the discomfort that comes from realizing that she's no longer sure you're thinking about her. And that's not just uncomfortable, it's unbearable. Because when women aren't sure where they stand, they start remembering the moments they felt most seen. And you, whether you know it or not, saw her in a way no one else did. But you didn't cling, you didn't fight for her to stay. And that absence of begging, that's what breaks her rhythm. She was used to being chased, used to being worshipped. But now, every hour you don't fold, she folds a little more. She won't message you yet, pride won't let her, but she's watching, closely. She notices if you post less. She checks when you were last online. She scans your stories, not to support, but to track, to measure, to decode. Because the moment a man stops chasing is the moment a woman starts searching for reasons. And if she can't find one, she'll create it. She'll rewrite the past, convince herself she pushed you away by accident, romanticize the smallest moments. She'll make you the man who walked away, not because he lost interest, but because he had something greater to return to, himself. That's how a presence becomes unforgettable, not through drama, but through the courage to become untouchable. And if your gut is telling you this makes sense, if something deep inside you knows you've been giving too much for too little in return, then you need to get your hands on the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook. This is a weapon, a guide forged from raw truths that most men never hear. And once you own it, it's yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits. You'll always have access to the strategies, the breakdowns, the mindset shifts that let you walk away with dignity and lead with strength. No more second-guessing. No more being emotionally blindfolded. This is the blueprint to taking back control for good, and it's linked in the comments below. Now let's get back to it. Day 6 to 9, curiosity kicks in. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in, quietly. She wakes up and instinctively reaches for her phone, not for the alarms, not for the weather, but for something else, a notification, a reaction, a name, yours. But you're not there. Not liking, not watching, not engaging. And it's strange because the world hasn't changed, yet something feels different. She brushes it off, scrolls through her feed, answers messages, posts her usual filtered smiles, but something's missing, and for the first time she can't quite name it. It's you. Not your presence, but your absence. Not because of what you said or did, but because you're no longer emotionally available to her, and that disruption, though subtle, sends a ripple through her comfort zone. You were always easy to predict. She could count on your replies. She knew the timing of your compliments, the rhythm of your check-ins. But now, there's nothing, and that nothing begins to occupy space in her mind. She tells herself it's fine. You're probably busy. You'll come back like they all do. But hours pass, days pass. Still, no message. No accidental view of her story. No late-night like. And now she's wondering, not about you, but about her. Why isn't he checking in? Did I do something wrong? Was I too cold? And that question, that first drop of doubt, is what begins to spiral. Because women don't obsess over men they understand. They obsess over the ones who leave questions they can't answer. And you, whether you intended to or not, have become a question mark in her mind. Not because you played games, but because you stepped out of the game entirely. You've gone from predictable to mysterious, from accessible to undefined. And that transition is what triggers her curiosity into overdrive. She starts posting intentionally now. She pretends it's organic, but every story, every quote, every image has an ulterior motive to pull a reaction. She's not texting you, but she's speaking to you indirectly. Look how good I'm doing without you. Look at what you're missing. It's bait, wrapped in aesthetic, served on a platter of digital nonchalance. But when you don't bite, something shifts again. Because it wasn't just about getting your attention, it was about confirming she still had access to you. And now that she doesn't, the panic sets in. Not the kind that sends her into tears, but the kind that forces her to analyze. She rereads your last messages, looking for tone shifts. She scans your profile, checking for changes. She wonders if you're seeing someone else, or worse, if you've simply moved on. And that thought, that maybe she wasn't as special as she thought, that maybe you're actually happy without her, that's where the discomfort grows. Because the fantasy she built of being in control is cracking, and underneath it, she finds something she hasn't felt in a long time: uncertainty. And women hate uncertainty, because it reminds them that their power isn't absolute, that attention isn't permanent, that validation isn't guaranteed, and your lack of engagement becomes proof, not of your disinterest, but of your evolution. She doesn't know where you are emotionally. She doesn't know if you're thinking about her. And that unknown, that lack of emotional availability, becomes the most valuable currency in her world. Because for the first time, she realizes she doesn't own you. And that realization, that you are no longer emotionally predictable, that you may never be again, that's what begins to haunt her. Day 10 to 13, her ego starts to crack. Every woman carries a script in her mind, the silent one she never shares but uses to filter every interaction. It's a script where she gets to win, where she walks away first, where you're always waiting, always lingering, always needing closure. But when you step out of that script and refuse to play your part, something inside her fractures, not her heart, her pride. Because she was supposed to be the one who ended it. She was supposed to be the one who withheld, who ignored, who made you feel her absence. But now it's her checking the timestamps, her looking for signs, her sitting in a room filled with notifications, yet wondering why the one name she wants to see hasn't shown up. That's when it hits her, not like a revelation but like a slow bleed. She starts remembering things she tried to forget, how your attention felt like safety, how your energy grounded her, how your messages had rhythm, certainty and calm. She didn't appreciate it then, it was just there, like air, but now it's gone and every breath feels incomplete. She won't admit it out loud, not to herself, not to her friends, not to anyone. Because to confess that she misses you would be to admit she underestimated you, that she misread the depth of what you brought. And women, for all their confidence, hate being wrong about a man's value. But now the evidence is everywhere. You're not reacting, you're not waiting, you're not orbiting, and that realization shatters her illusion of control. She thought she had you measured. She thought she could always pull you back with a smile, a message, a post. But now, none of that works. And that failure to influence you the way she used to, it bruises her ego, deep. Because now the question shifts. It's no longer, why isn't he reacting? It becomes, did he ever need me at all? And that's the question she can't shake. That's what keeps her awake. Because you were always the constant, the calm, the steady presence in a world of chaos. And now that you're gone, she sees what she never admitted before. She needed your attention more than she wanted to, and she lost it, not because you played games, but because you finally chose to stop offering yourself to someone who couldn't see your worth. And now her ego, the thing that once made her feel powerful, is under siege. Every memory of you becomes a reflection she can't escape. Every time you listened, showed up, stayed present without demanding anything in return, it replays, not as evidence of your weakness, but of your strength. Because only a strong man walks away with no anger. Only a focused man chooses himself without needing applause. And now she's haunted by the image of you not reaching out, not because you're bitter, but because you've evolved beyond her influence. And that reality, that you no longer need her validation to feel whole, that's what truly breaks her. Not because she lost a man, but because she lost a man who knew how to walk away with dignity. And that kind of man is unforgettable. Day 14 to 17. She tests you. She doesn't come out and say it, she never will, but everything she does in this phase is a test. Calculated, layered, deliberate. She's not trying to reconnect, she's trying to confirm a belief. The belief that you were like every other man she discarded before, that all your strength, all your stillness, all your peace was just a delayed reaction. That eventually you'll break character. That under pressure you'll collapse into the boy you swore you outgrew. She'll send out signals, not text. That would be too obvious, too vulnerable. Instead, she'll test you with attention traps. A new picture, a caption that hints at reflection or loneliness. A location tag that suggests she's somewhere you once spoke about. These aren't innocent coincidences. They're carefully placed landmines, emotional triggers meant to pull you out of your lane and back into hers. And when you don't respond, when you hold your ground, it confuses her. But not for long. She doubles down. She tries a different approach. This time, she appears cold, detached, glowing even. She makes it seem like she's thriving, that your absence meant nothing, that life goes on. And maybe it does. But what she doesn't expect is for you to not care, to not even blink, because she thought she had you figured out. She thought you'd trip on your own desire. But now that you don't take the bait, now that her tactics fall flat, the discomfort begins to grow. And here's where the test really begins. Not hers, but yours. Because your mind will start to whisper. Maybe she misses me. Maybe I should reach out. Maybe this is progress. But you know better. You've seen this game before. You've played it from the weaker side. And now, you have the power to rewrite the ending. By doing nothing. By reacting to nothing. Because the truth is, she's not reaching out because she respects you. She's reaching to see if you still need her approval. And when you don't respond, not because you're angry, not because you're detached, but because your mission is greater than any test, she begins to unravel in ways she never expected. Because women don't panic when they lose a man. They panic when they lose the power they had over him. And in this phase, every test she sends your way is a silent scream for control. She wants to know she can still get a reaction, that she still exists in your world. But when you show her she doesn't, when you keep building, when your life moves forward without needing to showcase your growth for her applause, you rob her of the only card she had left: influence. And that's when she begins to feel the shift. Not just in the space between you, but in her own mind. Because now, the man she once thought she could toy with has become untouchable. Not because he's vanished, but because he no longer lives in her emotional loop. You've passed her test. But more importantly, you've passed your own. You've proven that your peace is not a performance, it's a lifestyle. And in doing so, you've triggered something she never anticipated. The start of her obsession. Day 18 to 23. Obsession begins. It starts in the moments she least expects. She's out with friends, laughing, pretending. But then something hits. Maybe a song, maybe a scent, maybe a memory of how calm you always were. And suddenly, she's quiet, lost, haunted by a presence that doesn't knock but barges in. And that presence is you. Not the version she used to know, the version she controlled with hot and cold affection, but the version she can't find anymore, the one who walked away and never looked back. At first, she tries to rationalize it. I'm just tired. He's not that special. I'll get over it. But the thoughts don't fade. They intensify. They multiply. They pull her back to every moment she took for granted. The way you listened. The way you looked at her without agenda. The way your attention felt safe, not needy. She remembers laughing at your texts, then ignoring them, then missing them, and now craving them. She stares at the chat thread, thumb hovering, trying to justify one more message. Just a hi, just a check-in. But she doesn't send it. Not because she's strong, but because she's scared. Scared you won't reply. Scared you don't care. Scared she's no longer the priority in your mind. And that fear becomes obsession. Now she checks your profile first thing in the morning, last thing at night. Not because she wants you back, but because she wants the version of herself that had your validation. But it's gone. She doesn't feel beautiful the way she did when you used to tell her. She doesn't feel wanted the way she did when your attention was consistent. And now she's chasing ghosts. Ghosts of compliments, ghosts of glances, ghosts of a man who made her feel more woman than anyone else, but did so without ever begging for approval. And that's what kills her the most. You weren't desperate. You weren't predictable. You weren't willing to trade your values for access to her world. And now that you're gone, that energy, the one she couldn't quite name, becomes everything she longs for. She plays old voice notes, scans old photos, compares every man she meets to the you who no longer waits. But no one feels the same, because no one else walked away like you did, with peace, with certainty, without theatrics. And now, every day that passes without your attention feels like withdrawal, because she got used to your energy. She fed on it, and now she has to live without it. And that craving, that hunger for something she no longer controls, that's not love. That's obsession, and it grows louder with every hour you don't return. Day 24 to 29, you become unforgettable. Some moments in life imprint so deeply that no amount of distraction can replace them. And this is when she starts realizing you've become one of those moments, one of those men who wasn't just part of her story, but who rewrote the way she looks at presence, connection, and value without ever needing to announce himself. It doesn't hit her like a wave. It creeps in like a memory she can't delete, always lingering in the background while she lives her life on autopilot, pretending to be fine. She's at a brunch laughing, but when her phone buzzes, she checks it, hoping it's you. She lies awake at night, scrolling through people who want her, but none of them make her feel the way your energy did. It wasn't about the words you said or the attention you gave. It was about the way you made her feel without needing anything back. It's when you were calm, when you showed up without apology, when you listened without trying to fix her, when you stood there like a man anchored in something deeper than approval. That's when she felt most seen. But now you're gone, not in distance, but in frequency. And that absence has created a new reality for her. She begins replaying everything, the moments you chose her, even when she didn't deserve it, the patience you showed when she was cold, the discipline you carried when she expected you to react and you didn't. These things that once annoyed her, that she took for granted, now haunt her, because no one else does it like you. Every other man who tries to fill your space fails. They're either too eager, too desperate, too reactive. They ask too many questions, talk too much, move too fast. But you, your stillness spoke louder than all their noise, and that made you unforgettable. It's not just that she misses you, it's that she doesn't know how to replace you, because you weren't something she could predict or control. You were a force of peace she didn't respect until it left. And now she's scrolling through your old pictures, reading between your lines, trying to figure out if she was ever enough for you. She won't say it, but she's hoping your new posts aren't about another woman. She's hoping she still has a place in your story, even if she no longer deserves it. She's remembering your eyes, not how they looked at her, but how they looked through her, as if you already knew she couldn't give you what you needed, but still gave her the chance. And that memory, that emotional imprint, it's not going anywhere, because while women get flooded with attention, they don't get flooded with authenticity. And you, without ever having to try, became the one real thing in a world of illusions. And once a woman experiences real, she can't unsee it. She can run from it, pretend it didn't matter, replace it with new faces. But deep down, she knows the truth. Men like you don't come back. Men like you don't explain why they leave. They just vanish and become legends in her memory. And that legend, that living memory, becomes the quiet comparison every man after you will be judged against. That's what makes you unforgettable, not because you were perfect, but because you were the last man who didn't need her to validate his worth. Days 30 to 35. She justifies chasing. This is when her logic starts betraying her. The narrative she built to protect herself begins to collapse, and instead of letting go, she rewrites the story, not to find peace, but to give herself permission to chase. She can't face the truth head-on, that she had a good man and didn't value him until he disappeared. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. So she crafts a new version. She tells herself, maybe you were scared. Maybe you still care but didn't know how to show it. Maybe you're the one hurting but too proud to say it. These aren't delusions, they're survival tactics. Because to admit you left for good, to accept that you walked away not out of anger, but because your standard finally outweighed your attraction, would destroy the image she held of herself. And so, she rationalizes. She replays the conversations where you gave her grace, where you didn't argue even when she was disrespectful. She remembers how you chose peace over power struggles, how you never begged for her affection even when she withheld it. And now, every memory she twisted to make herself feel superior becomes evidence that she was wrong. And that discomfort, that internal collapse of ego, triggers something deeper than regret. It triggers action. But because she's not ready to be vulnerable, her actions aren't direct. She starts liking your old posts, maybe views every story, leaves a comment under something random, sends a harmless message masked as casual. Hey, this reminded me of you, or you still alive. But every man who knows his worth can see through it. It's not a check-in, it's a reach back, a subtle attempt to reopen a door she once slammed. And if you're not healed, not grounded, not built, you'll take the bait. You'll believe she's changed. You'll believe it's love, but it's not. It's her trying to reclaim control over the version of you she could never fully own. Because the woman who really values you doesn't need to test, doesn't need to throw breadcrumbs. She comes with clarity, she comes with change. But this isn't that. This is desperation in disguise. And when you don't respond, or when you respond without emotional attachment, she spirals further. She doesn't get angry. She gets obsessed with rewriting her image in your eyes. She starts dressing differently, talking differently, chasing validation from others more aggressively, not because she wants them, but because she wants to prove to herself that she hasn't lost it. But she has. She lost the one thing that made her feel valuable without effort: your attention. And once a woman feels what it's like to lose effortless validation from a man she thought would always be there, she changes. Not always for the better, sometimes for the worse, because now she's chasing ghosts. You were never hers to control. You were a chapter she thought she authored, but turned out to be written in a language she couldn't understand. And when she realized the chapter ended without her permission, she tried to scribble herself back into your life. But men who grow, men who choose themselves, men who build, don't reopen closed books. They write new ones. And when you do that, when you keep building, keep elevating, keep becoming, she'll be watching, wishing, wanting, but never having, because the man she once ignored became the man she could never reach again. And if you've made it this far, then you already know deep down, this isn't just a video. This is truth cutting through years of noise. This is clarity in a world full of manipulation. And now the choice is yours. Keep repeating the cycle, or finally break it for good. If you're done begging for attention, done being forgotten the second you stop giving, then the Stoic relationship blueprint is for you. It's built for men who are tired of being disrespected, overlooked, and discarded after giving everything. You want power back. You want clarity. You want to understand what really makes her chase and what makes you untouchable. Then go get the ebook. It's linked in the comments, and once you have it, it's yours forever. Comment "I'm untouchable" if you're ready to take back control. Like the video, subscribe, and help save other men from years of emotional slavery and regret. Because if more of us had this knowledge, fewer of us would suffer in silence. This is your turning point. Grab it now before it disappears.